Welcome to This Week in Warframe, a series where I keep you updated on the past week of Warframe, from announcements made by DE that don't necessarily warrant their own videos, to community fan art posts and updates. So without further ado, let's go over these announcements and news from the 6th of January to the 12th. Starting this week's episode off, we did have Hotfix 24.2.7 on PC, which brought 4 new augments into the game. These are for Gara, Khora, Nova, and Inaros. The first augment is Spectro Siphon and is for Gara's Spectro Rage ability. You can pick it up at the Arbiters of Hexus or the new Loka for 25,000 standing. This augment provides a 50% chance for an energy orb to drop upon killing any enemy within the Spectro Rage ability. The Vanara Bodyguard augment is of course for Khora and Vanara, and you can pick that up at the Steel Meridian or Red Veil. This augment allows Vanara to take the place of Khora if Khora takes lethal damage, similar to Wukong's Defy. This does have a 150-second respawn timer, and killing enemies will decrease the timer by 4 seconds. The next augment is Molecular Fission for Nova's Molecular Prime, and you can pick it up at the Steel Meridian or Cephalon Suda. This allows Nova to restore her Null Star charges upon killing enemies when they have been affected by Molecular Prime. The final augment is Desiccation Curse, and that is for Inaros' Desiccation ability. This augment can be picked up at the Arbiters of Hexus or the Perrin sequence, and it provides a 75% chance to spawn a Sand Shadow when you execute a blinded enemy with a finisher attack. As for the general additions in this hotfix, they have added a search box to the Arsenal loadout selection screen. They also added a new sound for the PAX Charge Arcane. They also made changes to the Profit Taker heist. The first change is to the first bounty, and it will now require you to have a fishing spear equipped in your gear wheel. Players will also no longer need to wait for Yuriko to finish her greeting dialogue when initially prompting the briefing. They've also adjusted Yuriko's transmission timing during the third stage of the Profit Taker bounty, and that will also fix the overlapping Yuriko transmissions. As for the other changes to the Profit Taker, they are available on your screen. Next up were changes and fixes to Baruch. The first change is that the end of Elude's animation will no longer prevent movement, and they have also removed the blur effect from Baruch's Elude ability for players using the low particle quality setting. As for the fixes to Baruch, they are available on your screen. In this hotfix, there were also changes to Harrow. The first of which is that Harrow's systems blueprint can now be found on Rotation B of Defection missions, providing players a double chance getting a blueprint for Harrow's systems. They also increased Harrow's energy gain for his Thurible ability, and they also increased Harrow's penance duration by 20%. As for conservation changes and fixes, there is only one change, and that was making the Trank Rifle now silent. As for the fixes, they're available on your screen. Now, Nyx and Titania got some changes and an announcement that there will be more changes coming up in future hotfixes. However, the changes for Nyx in the current hotfix is that they have lowered Nyx's abilities volume to reduce fatigue while using her abilities repeatedly, and they've also fixed Corpus Ospreys not following you closely anymore when under Nyx's mind control ability. As for Titania, they did fix her lanterns not mesmerizing enemies properly. As for the upcoming fixes, in regards to Nyx, sound and presentation fixes will be coming for Psychic Bolt Recast, and the Absorb Damage Scaling and Crowd Control will be in review, just for the base ability, not for the Assimilate Augment. As for Titania, the only changes or fixes in the future involve reviewing the Tribute buffs. Now also in this hotfix were some additions to the Lock Pin Permanent Waypoint system. They have added a Show in HUD option to the context menu. They've also added a custom color option to the lock pin, as well as increasing the spawn count to 15. As for the two fixes, they're available on your screen. Now for the general changes in this hotfix, they have removed the requirement of needing the adherent rank with the quills to guild your amp with Little Duck. They replaced the Bratton Prime blueprint with Bratton Prime receiver within the Lith K2 relic. They've changed the Skyto-Rachnoid's affinity to 1000 and the Writer-Rachnoid to 1.5000 affinity, and they have also reduced the standing cost of the Transmutation Cores to 5000 standing within Cephalon Samaris' storefront. They have also reduced the cost of Cetus Wisps from 10,000 to 5,000. Javlock capacitors can now be sold for 2,500 credits. They have returned the Prime toggle for Mesa Prime. You can now fast travel to Little Duck when it is appropriate. They have changed the not scanned effects color of the Samara scanner to red. Corpus lockers will now show their new hologram if unlocked with the Master Thief mod. Helios will no longer scan Solaris lore fragments. There will be more information on that change in the developer tweets section of this video, so just keep that in mind when we get to it. You can now purchase multiple arcanes from their respected vendors, such as Rude Sood or Hawk. The new UI displays a maximum of 999,999,999 credits. Tweaks were made to the Staticor and Simulors effects to try and reduce the blowout with brighter energy colors and Mirage equipped. They made further improvements towards the operator hairstyles that included a hairband. They updated the operator amp icon, made some micro optimizations to the Hunter Command Beast preset mod, and they optimized some frame time spikes. The gift recipient name will now also be auto-filled when attempting to send a gift from the respected player's wishlist, and they toned down the firing effects of the Sapa. As for the fixes that were in this hotfix, they are available on your screen, and links to everything that I talked about here today are in the description down below as a source. Now, we also had one more hotfix for PC. This came in the form of hotfix 24.2.7.1, and there was one change which did tweak the radius and release sounds of the pheromone synthesizers, and as for fixes, they are available on your screen. We also had the announcement that the Prime Vault will be ending for Nintendo Switch on the 15th of January, and for PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4, the Prime Vault will be closing on the 29th of January. So make sure you either farm the relics before those dates, or purchase them outright from the Prime Access page on the Warframe website. We did have a public service announcement that changes will be coming to the minimum supported specs of Warframe on PC mid-February. The changes of the minimum supported specs for Warframe will be changed to Windows 7 on a 64-bit operating system that has a DirectX 10 capable graphics card and at least 4 GB of RAM. Now, for Nintendo Switch players who are waiting for Fortuna Part 1, it was going to be sent in for certification last week. However, it is now going to be sent into certification this upcoming week, so hopefully you guys get it sooner rather than later. Moving on, once again, we do have a reply from D.E. Drew in regards to someone asking about dedicated servers for PvE in Warframe. D.E. Drew's response was just outlining that there is the ping limit in your options and gameplay settings. However, he also stated the following in regards to dedicated servers. Concerning dedicated servers, they are not something we are planning at this time for the regular matchmaking. Moving on, once again, we had someone posting about the mod packs in-game and how they are similar to loot boxes, and we did have D.E. Marcus providing the following statement. The entire quote-unquote predatory feel is the reason we're trying to have discussions to see how they can best be reworked to become more helpful. The point of reviewing this and looking at feedback is so that the packs don't have the same feel in the future as they did in the past. Nothing has been set in stone as of this point. That's the statement regarding mod packs at the moment. Moving on, once again, we had D.E. Taylor giving us an outline and breakdown of when they provide feedback to Tennogen creators. So her statement is as follows. We don't share feedback until after the round has been announced. We also unfortunately can't offer feedback to all pieces. So if you don't receive any, it generally means that your piece needs improvement in a few ways. 1. Technical skill. Tennogen is a professional program and we only accept professional looking work. 2. It doesn't fit the Warframe aesthetic. Doing your research involves studying in-game items or even concept art from our staff. Look at how we use details and shapes for the different factions, read all the info in our basic art guide, and more. Creators who have done their homework are the ones who get accepted consistently, because very few edits need to be done to their skins or Sciendanas to feel they belong in-universe. And for the final forum post, we do have the announcement that the featured Dojo contest has returned, and players can now submit their clan dojos into the contest. Now, of course, there are rules, all of which you can find on the forum post if you are interested in entering this contest. Now the contest itself does end on the 24th of January at 1 PM Eastern Time, so if you do want to submit your clan into it, make sure to have a read of the full rules, and then submit when you are ready. Moving on to developer tweets, we had DE Rebecca or Rebecca Ford replying to DE Steve's question about what I should be working on or focusing on this year in Warframe. Something he did ask the community last week, after outlining that he does ask his team leads the same question. And Rebecca's message while posting the list goes as followed. While reading all the replies here with great enthusiasm, also thought it would be fun to isolate most frequent actionable category words and see their weighting, which looks like this. Of course, context matters, but general trends are interesting at a glance. And if you want to know the specific discussion around each of the words in this list, make sure to have a full read of the Twitter thread from Steve. Moving on to DE Pablo's many tweets from the last week, the first of which is in response to someone asking about the option to favorite certain mods, and his response was maybe when we redo those screens. His next tweet was in response to someone asking about a notification screen for using a bolted relic, and if you want to boost it up to a radiant rank. Pablo's response was that it's a pretty hard one, it is in the queue, but it's on the nasty list. We then had him replying to someone asking about stacked trading, and he did reply that something is in the works, but it is not stacked trading. It's just an easier way of selecting multiple items. And then we get into the final tweets, which are once again from Pablo, in reply and in response to players asking about Helios no longer scanning the memory fragments in the Orb Valis. So this one I'm going to try remain neutral. A player by the name of EC Delacroix tweeted at Pablo with the following message. Pablo, why did you guys make Helios not auto-scanning Fortuna lore fragments while it auto-scans the fishes of Plains of Eidolon? Can you undo the change? Pablo did reply with, I think it doesn't auto-scan fishes in Plains of Eidolon. The change was to make it consistent with that, if I remember correctly. The user had responded, stating that it still does, and Pablo replied with K, we'll get someone to take a look and fix the fish. We then had Andrew Singleton adding into the conversation, stating, so why even have Helios if you're going to decide, well, nope, he won't be allowed to scan this. This is my opinion, a stupid decision to not allow Helios to actually do the thing he's designed for. EC Delacroix replied, because he's too proud to admit his mistakes. Andrew then follows up, I realize most people that play Warframe won't have the level of poor vision I have, but taking away a tool that makes the ability to realistically do collection quests without getting a team together so other people can waypoint is fairly insulting feeling. Pablo then replied, I made sure a bug got fixed, bud. If you want changes to the design of this feature, you are barking up the wrong tree. You should post in the forums. And while Pablo may just be the messenger of this fix, his final response in the matter wasn't quite warranted in my eyes. He later replied to another player by the name of K. Campbell, who tweeted the following. The quote-unquote consist fix you're doing for Helios about the lore fragments on Orb Valis and Plains of Eidolon make it inconsistent with other fragments. Helios really helpful for players such as I, who have a hard time trying to find these things, who are hardly visible on a scanner as is. Pablo replies, haha, how did I get roped into this thing? It's what I get for trying to answer a question I don't enough about. You should post in forums and community team can get your feedback to whoever is in charge of this. And that ends the developer tweets of this week in Warframe. I'm going to try get the community highlights section back up, but due to time constraints at the moment, they're going to be cut out of a couple of episodes. Anyway, if you found the video informative, make sure to leave a like. If you think I can improve upon the series in any way, shape or form, make sure to leave it in a comment section down below. Or if you just want to chime in on anything that I talked about here today, maybe on the Helios change or the replies from DE Pablo, that's up to you. Leave it in a comment down below. Glyph codes, of course, are up on your screen. You can get them, chuck them on the promo code on the Warframe website, and you will get the Iwoply channel glyph in-game. Whether you want to use it or not, that's up to you. And the annotation on the screen will take you right to the previous episode of This Week in Warframe, so if you missed out on that episode, make sure to click it and go to that.